Yes, I just came out of the fields. If it looks like I'm Farmer Dave today, because I am. As many of you know, I have a little side hustle now. It's called the Hesed House Venue, which is on 55 acres. And if you were in studio with me, you would smell the sweet aroma of a major burn pile. Yes, I smell like a campfire, maybe a little bit more like a burning pile. But it's good to have you here. Obviously, as you know, I was not here on Thursday. Chris Haig did an amazing job. I'm hearing it from everyone. I sound like Donald Trump right now. He was amazing. He was the best that there ever has been on the DPB show. That is right, Christopher Haig. We're going to have Chris on here in a minute. But first and foremost, I want to make sure that we get into the show right away because we have a special guest. This man is a man of many hats, many talents. We'll maybe cover that. I'd like to actually get him on for an entire show himself because he could put on a show. In fact, he does put on a little bit of Facebook Lives called The Great Divide. Go out there. I think I've mentioned him before on the show. He's been in the comment section. Actually, that reminds me, get the comment section up. Good to see all of you joining us, coming into studio. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Go out, like, subscribe, whether that's Rumble, YouTube, X, or both of our Facebook pages. But once again, getting back to my guest, because he is limited on time. He's got another thing, obligation that he has to attend to today. But the name of the show, title of the show today is the Supreme Court decision. So much is being said out there about election integrity and moving forward. Obviously, the lid is off. Things are happening. It's going to be different, whether the Save America Act gets through the Senate, which right now, Chris and I were just discussing this before the beginning of the show. I'm pretty certain that the stonewalling that's going on will it be passed by the midterms? Highly doubtful. Once again, it just goes to show you the state of our Senate and the House of Representatives. I wasn't going to say the State of the Union. Well, I guess it is still the State of the Union because they are a branch of government, the legislative branch, and they don't seem to be able to move forward with anything. It is constantly this stonewalling. It's constantly this delay. And there's a reason, because a lot of them come from the field of law. And they've learned it very well, how to basically create lawfare. And that's what this is all about. And we'll actually ask Kenneth about his opinion on that. But real quick, I see Kenneth has joined us in studio. So let's get everybody on stage, Chris included. And let's see if I can get all three of us up here. I think I can. This way. Hey, look at that. There they are. Hold on. Wait a second, Chris. I'm going to get you up here for the banner. Don't forget, Chris. There he is, Chris Haig. He's right here, over here, right next to me. And then let's do this one. Yeah. Hey, Kenneth, I gave you a title. Is that okay? I think that's your official title with Bailey for Illinois.
That looks about right.
State Field Director, Bailey for Illinois, but there's so many other hats. Kenneth, I know we're on a limited time. Kenneth, meet Chris. Chris, meet Kenneth. Hey, Kenneth, when we're not trying to rush through this, hold on. Let me see if I got a different angle. This is kind of bothering me. Yeah, I like that one better.
He half the average age now of the people on the stage here.
Well, it is, but he's not only.
Thanks, Kenneth.
Hey, Chris. We're on a limited time thing. Chris actually does my show on Thursdays when I'm doing grandpa duty, which I will be doing grandpa duty again this Thursday. My son-in-law is completing his hours that are needed in clinicals so he can advance his nursing degree. Of course, my daughter works every Thursday in outpatient surgical recovery down at Carle Hospital. But you're right. Not only does he half our age, but between my two daughters, and then, of course, I have blended family, 3 sons. And Chris, you have 3, right?
Yep.
Kenneth has got us. That's how many kids he has. So he's half our age, and he's already reproduced both you and I. And we're, let's see, combined age. Let's see. what are we? 120?
Well, that's good. We need good
29.
conservatives. So,
All right,
congratulations,
Kenneth. Well, I'm not even going to pull up.
work.
I'm not even going to pull up the little flash screens. Give us the insight, because this is important. Chris and I'll run it. I know you got to jump around 4:15. So give us your insight to everything that's going on with the Supreme Court right now. Not only considering the Mississippi case, we didn't know it's Watson versus whoever. Chris and I are just calling it the Mississippi case, and how it compares and contrasts to the Illinois case, because it's interesting. Illinois was referred in the opening statement of the Supreme Court case. So you've got it, Kenneth. Go ahead, hit it.
Okay, well, I think the Watson v. RNC case is maybe even more important than the Boss case. So the Boss case, the Illinois case, really had to do with whether Michael Boss could bring a lawsuit even though he won his election, and challenge the election. So the court's kind of focus was on justiciability. Did Mike Boss actually have an injury, right? So in order to bring a case, you have to have been injured. And so the court kind of wrangled around, well, was there an injury? Mike Boss lawyers, of course, Judicial Watch, they say, yeah, there was an injury because I still had to pay money to my team. I had to kick money out. I had to pay for audits. I had to pay for all of these procedures and lawsuits. And because of that economic cost, I've been injured. It doesn't matter if I won or lost. So that case, I think, is important because it deals with what kinds of injuries get you into court. But this case, the Watson RNC case, so Watson, also a Michael, he's Secretary of State of Mississippi. And Mississippi has a law in the books that says if a ballot is cast and postmarked, it can land into the seat of the Secretary of State's office 5 days later and still count. That's a statutory provision. And what the opponents are arguing, and that would be the RNC, they're saying, well, federal law preempts that statute. By preempt, I mean it kind of canceled out this statute. Yeah, Mississippi, you may want to bring in ballots 5 days after because they've been postmarked, but we don't know what's happened in those 5 days. And the Constitution says on election day. So the fact that the Constitution points out a specific day that's outlined in Title II USC Section 7, that there's a specific day, what the RNC is arguing is that everything has to be in-house on election day. And so that is very important because you'll remember back in 2020, when Brad Raffensperger, the day after the election, November 4th, came on.
Secretary of State of Georgia.
Yes, Secretary of State of Georgia. He comes on to the Today Show and he says 98% of the ballots are in. Donald Trump is up by 109,000 votes. There's nothing Biden can do. But then after he said that, another 300,000 absentee ballots showed up. And because of that, Biden ended up taking the win. So this case, the Watson case, not the Boss case, but this case that was argued yesterday would preclude something like what we saw in Georgia in 2020.
I've got a little video. I'm going to share it with the audience here. We do appreciate you jumping on, Kenneth. So many of you might be wondering, what is this guy that looks like Lenny Kravitz and has a lot more children? We were just talking about Joe Walsh just a minute ago, Kenneth. You weren't on yet. We were talking about Sammy Hagar because back in the Carter administration, he raised or lowered the speed limit to 55 because he wanted everybody to save gasoline. And we were, of course, Sammy Hagar, I can't drive 55. But Lenny Kravitz, yes, it is his twin brother there in the screen. But thank you, Kenneth. So you're wondering, where does Kenneth get off with espousing and following? Because Kenneth is just a lifelong student. But not only that, he recently, amongst all of his responsibilities with his children and his family, living in the inner city of Chicago, he has a law degree. And just recently, am I correct, Kenneth? Correct me if I'm wrong, passed his bar exam. So correct. Now he is licensed Are you officially licensed? I don't know how that works. I
Yes,
know how it works for
licensed bar and
in the state of
able to practice.
Illinois.
Yeah.
Chris, we got some work to do.
Hey, I got my chartered financial analyst designation.
That's right. Hold on. Let me get that back up there on the screen.
Yeah, put the CFA back up there. You know, they just came out with the pass rate for the CFA. You have to pass 3 tests. Level 1 pass rate was only 45% this year. So, and that was above average actually. So it's a tough test to pass.
So Kenneth, just to give you some background I'm trying to get our friend and our candidate for governor. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit more about that because I haven't been back on the DPB show since Darren Bailey won the primary here in Illinois. In fact, I got a video of Darren. Darren made Fox News here today. I don't know if you saw that or not, Chris or Kenneth. He was on Fox News talking about the unfortunate killing of the young lady up in the Chicagoland area by an illegal immigrant. But Chris, see, I get going so quick that my mind's just erasing. But Chris, trying to get him involved with the campaign a little bit, Kenneth, and the reason being is Chris has a lot of expertise of understanding the financial aspects of pensions and all the background behind that. He has a lot of great ideas. When Chris originally went through to become a certified chartered financial analyst, there were only 10,000 of them, right, Chris?
Yeah.
In the world.
Yeah.
10,000.
So
there were a lot more lawyers.
Yeah, there's still a lot more lawyers than CFAs. But
Kenneth, I know that you've got to drop off, but folks, this is the kind of expertise that is not only behind the Bailey campaign, but this is the type of expertise we need going forward in Illinois. It's going to take all of us. Kenneth, can you and I agree on that? It's just
100%.
Not just 1 or 2 people, but we need everyone. I just commented on someone from up north making light of Cindy Bailey and Darren Bailey on a Metro train, and he for some reason he's under some fantasy spell because there's no magic. The fact that the Baileys are willing to jump on a Metro train or go to a Bulls game, that's who they are. They are, you remember the movie, Chris? Kenneth probably doesn't remember, but Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Well, yeah. Mr. and Mrs. Bailey go to Chicago. They are the salt of the earth people. Yeah. Do they look a little out of pace? Yeah, I do too. Obviously,
but can I tell you something about that though?
Go ahead.
They called me last night, and they spoke for probably about 10 minutes about how much they enjoyed that Metro ride. And they were shocked that people knew them from every class of life and every stage of life. And it was just like, they're like, we got to do that more often.
Yeah.
That was a fun ride. They loved it. And the people loved them. And that's the kind of governor, like the day I see JB Pritzker on a Metro train is the day I run for governor. Okay.
Well, he'd get obliterated if he was on that train. I gotta imagine that people would not be happy that he was on there. And just so you know, I used to take the Metro into the city every day when I lived in Chicago.
Well, hold on. Did you get up every morning from the alarm clock warning?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you take the 8:15 into the city, Chris?
Yeah, unfortunately, I had to get there a lot earlier than that, but yes, I did. And
whistles up above and people pushing, people shoving.
Well, that part was true. That was definitely true. And generally, you would never say anything to anybody on the train. You just go and pretty much you almost had assigned seats. You go and sit there and stone faced. I'd sleep on the way in because you can't sleep past the last stop. So I'd sleep on the way in and study for the CFA on the way out. And yeah,
he was taking care of business every day.
Taking care of business every day. Yeah.
Taking care of business every way.
Hey, I got.
Hold on. Before that, I want to tell one more story because I know Kenneth is leaving and he can add some color
sure.
to this story. So, Kenneth, were you with Darren as they went from Springfield to Naperville last Wednesday? So were you at the Wally's in?
Yeah.
God,
Yeah. I took some of the pictures.
Pontiac.
Heck yeah.
On Interstate 55. I was there 2 years ago with Darren when we hit the Wally's. I can't even imagine what it would have been like on Wednesday. I was there and people recognized him and they were stopping and wanting photos. But recap what you saw, because I stopped at Wally's. I was a little bit behind you guys. You guys were about a half hour ahead. But just give a little insight of walking into Wally's. In case you're not familiar with Wally's, it is the Central Illinois version of Buc-ee's. I'll probably get YouTube will probably kick me off for, well, I guess I'm giving them a shout out. Buc-ee's, Wally's, it's all advertising that we're not getting paid for it. But go ahead.
So we went in to get some coffee. You know, Cindy likes her coffee in the morning. So we were trying out new coffee. And then one of the clerks came around to Cindy and said, I've just told the entire staff that you are here. So I think what's interesting is that I think they might have recognized Cindy first. And then so Darren comes out and then there's just like a swarm. And what I noticed was how Darren paid attention to what people said. So one person said, I'm looking to vote for you. Now, this is the day after the primary, which means she didn't vote the primary. But then another family came up and said, we voted for you, which means they were aware that a primary had happened. And I think that is the perfect snapshot of people who are well-intentioned but don't know that the vote is happening, and then people who are paying attention and they are voting. But yeah, it was awesome. And then Aaron Del Mar showed up a few clicks later, and so people were able to get a picture with the whole team. So it was fun.
That is awesome. Well, and it is. And I will tell you, we had campaign events, and this is kind of the cool thing, is highlighting the what is the movement that there is. And contrary to a lot of the scuttlebutt, we get it. And all I keep saying is this: we need everyone, all hands, all feet, all mouths, because as Kenneth just shared with us, we know there are a lot of people that didn't vote in the primary. It's evident. We've seen the numbers. We don't know why that is. Part of it is because we sit around and we talk negatively about everything. Folks, our best days in Illinois are ahead of us. We're going to restore the great state of Illinois and the land of Lincoln. We know that's going to be the case. And we know whether that's this year, we know as people of faith, and this show's not bashful about pronouncing Jesus Christ as Lord, that we know that Illinois has been set aside. There is something happening. JB Pritzker is imploding. I'm going to get to more of that as the rest of the show. But Kenneth, it's 4:20. You've got to go pick somebody up. Hey, we're going to get you back, Kenneth, because
we got a lot to cover because JB tends to ignore the Constitution, and there's a lot of stuff going on there with Second Amendment rights, and he just doesn't believe in
Kenneth,
the
are you ready?
We'll
get him on next. We'll get him on next week, or maybe you could have him on Thursday, and the two of you can do a show.
Well, yeah.
All right, Kenneth, we love you, brother.
Hey, this was fun. Thank you, DPB.
We'll talk
nice
to you
to meet
soon.
you, Chris.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. So obviously wanted to get him in quickly. He has a friend returning from a mission trip. So can you imagine? He's like-minded to DPB. I think he's one of the coolest human beings. Let me tell a story really quick, because I think this is what a lot of people don't know. So if you're wondering who Kenneth Woodard is and how he came to be part of the Darren Bailey campaign, back in 21, I got to make sure I'm giving enough details. I'm trying to work on that. Kenneth was working, Kenneth was listening to TV, and he heard an ad by one of the gubernatorial candidates, and it was disparaging, running down Darren Bailey, which unfortunately, here it is, it's a week out, and I'm hoping a little bit of that will be tapped down over time. I get it. A lot of people have a lot of opinions about what needs to happen. I have one opinion. We need to unseat and dethrone JB Pritzker, who is by far The reason, no other reason, that the state of Illinois is currently where we're at. But Kenneth is listening, and he hears this gubernatorial candidate. His name's Richard Irvin. And he's disparaging the Baileys about their faith and who they are as people. And Kenneth made a decision that day that he was going to back Darren Bailey. Now, as Paul Harvey would say, do you want to know the rest of the story? Kenneth and Richard Irvin are cousins. Kenneth did not take a very high-profile role in the Bailey campaign back in 22. He got up to speed, and as I shared with you, I mean, he just had a beautiful, beautiful little baby, his 8th, as I shared with you. Now, I hope it's okay if I share this, Kenneth. I mean, if you're still listening, the sad part about it is they lost their 7th child. And the child was born and lived for a period of time. But unfortunately, God called that little baby home. So Kenneth had a few things to do. He has 7 kids right now. When I call Kevin sometimes, and he has a job, he's known as, he has a job, full-time job, and a full-time job with the Bailey. He's guy's working 2 full-time jobs. Bless Kenneth's wife, who is a beautiful soul in of herself, and especially taking care of that many children. But she also is someone who understands the immigration policy and coming to this country legally. So I look forward to having Kenneth, one of the greatest minds, I believe, in politics right now. Blows me away every time I get an opportunity to talk to him. But as I said, he made a commitment to work for the Baileys. And now when Darren decided to run again, actually, Darren didn't decide. God decided for Darren for such a time as this via the conduit of Darren's son, Zach, who was very responsible. I mean, Zach was the one who was telling his dad he needed to run again. But when Darren made a decision to go ahead and listen to God's calling, because it's called obedience, and run again for governor, he went up north and sought Kenneth out and asked him to come on board. You know, when people talk about needing the vote out of Chicago, we've got 2 dynamic all-stars, younger people, one being lieutenant governor candidate Aaron Del Mar, the other being Kenneth Woodard from the inner city of Chicago. In fact, he's got connections all through the city. And, you know, any guy that looks like Lenny Kravitz and is a conservative, Christian conservative Republican, can you imagine? People, when Kenneth shows up in a room, people are like, oh, look it's our Democrat colleague. He's going to side with us.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm surprised somebody doesn't say, hey, man, Rastafari reggae, you know? Yeah. So that's a little background, Chris. I didn't quite prepare, Chris, for all of that, but now you know the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey says. Chris, we got a big show, and we're 426. So go ahead. You were going to say something.
Well, we were talking about the Sammy Hagar song, I Can't Drive 55.
I can't either.
And so we were wondering whether he mentioned exactly how fast he was driving. And so one of the lines in the song is, go ahead and write me up for 125. So I'm going to go with 125 for how fast he was driving, which
you pulled up the lyrics. Good for you, because now that you said that, I remember that write me up for 125. So he was going at least 125.
Yeah. So he's going double the speed limit more than.
So to compare that with Joe Walsh's My Maserati does 185. So do you really think that Joe pushed it to 185? I mean, I'm suspecting he must have.
There might be some other lyrics in there that, because he talks about driving cross country and how fast he managed to drive across the country. So, you know, there's a certain section of the country where they don't really care too much about speed limits. So he may have been able to
Well,
the
and
125 there. He just got caught at 125. It also implies that maybe he was driving faster than 125. And so he's just like, oh, write me up for 125 because that's better than what I was really going.
you know, I thought I want to make sure that I continue this conversation, though, about Darren Bailey, and I don't want to designate the entire show to Darren. But, folks, Darren Bailey is, I believe, for such a time as this, he is our candidate for the governor to replace J.B. Pritzker. And there's so much out there about J.B., especially in light of what just took place in Chicago, this tragedy with Sheridan Gorman, which, you know, unfortunately, we're not hearing anything out of JB. I remember the campaign by the left, the radical left, was say her name, right? We got a professor name. Do you remember what her name was? Well, I do. And I think it's important that we mention every name of people who were brutally killed, because especially in a country, and of course that one had to do with the fact of law enforcement and a horrific event, obviously, and the details are out there for you to go look at. But in this instance, this is a young lady who was killed in the city of Chicago, a student at Loyola, by an illegal alien, an illegal immigrant who is here because, and residing in Chicago because of the failed policies and the failed sanctuary status of the state of Illinois. That is flat down, hands down, the only reason that young lady is dead today. And J.B. Pritzker, he's got nothing, you know, won't speak the name of.
Well, that's part of what I talked about on Thursday was he just doesn't care about the citizens of Illinois. He's beyond that. He's above the rest of us. He's on to becoming president in his own mind. So he doesn't care.
He doesn't. In fact, that's, you know, just looking, Darren Bailey is picking up. I was just looking at his audience. My gosh, he's exploded since the thing. But here's the video of Darren, as I was just sharing with you a minute ago. Let me make sure that I don't start it off by, it's 58 seconds. But here is Darren. Let's see if I can blow it up a little bit. It's gonna start without me.
If he would simply allow state and local.
Stop. Okay, there we go. Let's start over. All right.
This problem, these tragedies, J.B. Pritzker is 100% responsible for them. If he would simply allow state and local law enforcement to do their job, then we wouldn't be having this conversation today. We wouldn't be having some of the nonsense that took place several months ago. But J.B. Pritzker, unfortunately, seems to hate Donald Trump much more than he loves Illinois. And the people of Illinois deserve so much better.
Just in the 30 seconds I have left, what kind of coverage is this story getting in Chicago?
Well, it got late coverage. It's been some time, hours after this event. J.B. Pritzker was at a gridiron event, literally joking about, illegal immigration. And yesterday he's in San Francisco with Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi. This is the kind of nonsense we're dealing with here in Illinois. Illinois deserves better. This problem, these tragedies, J.B. Pritzker is 100% responsible.
I didn't get that shut off in time, but Chris, 100% responsible. And that's what real leadership is about. You know, one of the things I can appreciate, and you guys can all go back out and look at Darren's speech or address, I should say, on Watch Night last Tuesday, a week ago. Can you believe it or not? Believe it that we're already 1 week after the election here in Illinois. I know some of you didn't realize there was an election, and I want to get to talking about that because Mrs. Producer, who is not with us today, but she put out a post this morning, and it hits it right on the head. It all is about participation, getting involved in the process. We can't win and unseat J.B. Pritzker without hundreds, if not thousands thousands. Let's just go. I'm going to state it. We need 100,000 people to be involved in this campaign. When we succeeded in winning the primary of 22, we had about 10,000 volunteers. We need to go 10 times that, because that's what it's going to take, because we're never going, well, I can't say never, because we have some things in the works behind the scenes that I'm not at liberty and haven't been given permission to share here on the DPB show, but we're working on some things. I don't know if we're going to reach the level. JB Pritzker could spend anywhere from $100 to $200 million. And some people are even saying that he would even be willing to spend more than that to win this seat, because we all realize, Chris, if JB doesn't win,
He
Illinois
can't run for president.
He can't run for president. Exactly. So go ahead.
I want to debunk something so the answer to this is that, oh, don't worry about the illegal aliens. They commit less crimes than native born people. And that's just a lie. That's a fake argument. And there's a number of reasons for why that's fake. First of all, a lot of those sanctuary cities fail to report crimes. So number one, the crimes are underreported because they want to cover up the fact that there's a lot of crime from illegal aliens. Number two, because most of the crime, a lot of the crime on illegal aliens happens against other illegal aliens, we get no reporting for that because they don't want to go in and report and then end up being deported. So those crimes are not reported. Number three, when you're in the country for a short period of time, it takes a while to commit a crime. Over time is when people commit more and more crime as they get involved in the city and start to try and figure out their way in life, which is a criminal way of life, because that's what they were doing when they were in the country of origin. So there's another issue there. So when you look at all those things together, you find out that really that whole issue that they try and use as their argument is basically a lie. And then the final thing is, and as you point out, is that if these people weren't in this country, that person would still be alive because that crime wouldn't have happened. So, and it's not just crime, it's also driving accidents that are happening because, you look at the commercial driver's license that Illinois is giving to all these illegal aliens who can't speak English, don't really understand the rules of the road and whatnot. So there they are killing people on the road that wouldn't have been killed before. So it's quite a safety issue for JB to, be allowing all these types of things. And then,
and not to make light of
the citizens suffer the consequences. Meanwhile, he has his own security.
Yeah.
So he doesn't care. And then there's another reason that when you look at, especially in the big cities, because of the attack on the police and defund the police, there's fewer police than we need.
Yeah.
So then those crimes get unreported because there's not enough police to report all the crimes that are committed by illegals. So that whole illegal alien, they're better than the citizens. First of all, we should be a little outraged by that comment in general. Yeah. Him accusing us of being worse than the people that we're bringing in. And hold on. It just doesn't hold water.
Don't get ahead of yourself. You're one video ahead of me already, Chris. See how you I can only load these things as quick as I can. Oh,
sure.
Right. The JB has blood on his hands. I saw he visited 2 cities and liberals who died in Minnesota. Right on, Darren, for saying that. Exactly. Thank you, Pam, for covering that. But you're a video ahead. So let me get to the video.
Okay.
That I think says it all. Chris Murphy.
I heard that one today.
Okay, you heard him, what he had to say. He has a preferential treatment, as Chris just said, which we all should be outraged at. There are billions and billions of dollars here in Illinois being spent, taxpayer funded, on illegal immigration, illegal immigrants. And that's got to stop. Unfortunately, the people of Illinois cannot bear the burden of the fact that people come here invaders is what we're calling them now, because I think immigrants is not what they are. They're
Well, when you allow millions of people to come in, that is well, I don't know how else you would describe it.
it's an invasion, and it was reported as that. We obviously opened the borders.
Well, it's even worse because then you start to include what's happening with the Chinese, and they're bringing military age people into this country.
Thousands and thousands
and thousands. And oh my gosh, what's going on at the U of I is horrible. And maybe I'll talk about that on Thursday, but that's
on the Chris Haig show.
Yeah. On the Chris Haig show on Thursday.
Thursdays, the Chris Haig show, from 4 to 5 live. Be here, be square. Okay. I want to jump back to what Kenneth had said, because this was the opening arguments in the Watson versus the RNC case. Let's see if I can get that to load here quickly. But here is Paul Clement, who is the attorney for the Republican National Committee. Let's hear what Paul has to say. I think he says something here. Oh no! Wait a minute. Oh wait,
Sleepy Joe hanging.
Is this not a video? Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll just read. Hold on. Is that an AI picture? Okay. Oh boy, I'm gonna get myself in trouble like Donald Trump did with flashing up pictures of the Obamas. But anyhow, let's read what Linda had to say. Supreme Court erupts in laughter as Paul Clement drops truth bomb on Chicago-style voting risk. During oral arguments today in Watson versus Republican National Committee, top conservative litigator Paul Clement, arguing for the RNC, hammered home why relying on postmarks for late arriving mail ballots is a recipe for disaster, and got the courtroom laughing in the process. Clement pointed out the glaring loophole in systems that let ballots trickle in days after polls close. The main post office in Chicago, here he goes. This is where he got the laughter. The main post office in Chicago stays open 24/7. So when all the other polls close in Illinois or every other state at 8 p.m., the post office is still open till midnight. Then came the killer line that broke the room. Now, I'm not here to say that there could ever be voting fraud in Chicago. Laughter erupts from the justices in the gallery. Clement pressed on, but if you're relying on a postmark from Chicago, you might not be getting what you think you're getting. The sarcasm landed perfectly. Chicago's long, infamous history of election machine shenanigans made the point crystal clear. No one needs to spell it out. This case challenges Mississippi's rule allowing ballots received up to 5 days, is what Kenneth was sharing with us, after Election Day, if postmarked on time. Meaning, and I kind of covered that on Tuesday's show last week, that if you were able to get your ballot, if you were doing vote by mail, I wasn't encouraging you to do that. I wanted you to go to your polling place. But hey, if you had to go out and get your ballot and get it turned in, you needed it postmarked by Election Day. No endless extensions, no post-election ballot dumps. Today's arguments show the conservative justices are listening, and the left's mail-in free for all just took a serious hit. The Supreme Court seems poised to slam the door on late counting schemes that undermine election integrity. Stay tuned for the ruling. Common sense could finally win one. All right. Supreme Court oral argument, which is the basis for the DPB show today. I thought that was worthy of a share, Chris. How about you?
Yeah, I find it interesting.
Post office stays open for 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Well, he contradicted himself a little bit there by saying it closed at midnight, but that's something else.
24 hours, it closed at midnight.
Yeah, it never closes with 24/7. But no, that besides that point, and then what's funny about that is it even makes its way into entertainment. So I'm watching this series Mad Men, which is about the ad business during the 60s. And they're during the election of Kennedy, they're talking about how Nixon had the election stolen from him in Chicago and Illinois, and how magnanimous he was by not fighting the fact that the votes were stolen in Illinois. So it's a long-standing issue. We laugh about it. We don't do anything about it. That's kind of sad in and of itself that we don't do anything about it.
And by no means, I know that we jumped around a little bit because we started covering the death of this young lady in Chicago, and by no means do we need to lessen what that means. It so supersedes any of this election integrity business. I mean, how meaningful is that young life? I mean, we've seen more and more and more. I mean, it's just constant. It seems like at least once a month, if not multiple times a month, that we're hearing about the deaths of not only young ladies and young women, but young men. And it's got to stop. It's got to stop. But so does voter fraud.
When you have a case where it's safer for inner city youth to be serving in the military in war zones than it is for them to be living in their, where they grew up, that's just not right.
Yeah. And that's what we're facing. Somebody, and I can't remember, it was in passing today, we were talking about that. Oh, it was my former neighbor, Owen. Owen called me up. Owen called me up and was talking about that he just returned from California, and he went to some hoity-toity restaurant in Hollywood, some steakhouse. It's world-renowned, and you guys would know it but he said what basically Trump said about Haiti. Of course, that created a scandal too. And some people have said about Chicago at times. He said Los Angeles is really decrepit. So is Hollywood. And that is what happens, folks. When Democrats run states, counties, municipalities, they turn to, what the rest of the fill in the blank. I'm not going to say it, but they are. They are not governed to the point where law and order is respected. They allow, as the old saying goes, they allow the inmates to run the prison or the insane asylum, where the patients are running the insane asylum. That's what we have here. And they are very comfortable, the Democrat Party, letting that happen in their states, in their counties, in their largest cities, all under the guise of being kind or being whatever other
progressive. That's what they consider themselves to be, progressive.
Yeah. They're doing something for humanity. They're making the world a better place. Unfortunately, as you have to, obviously, with your own eyes and ears, see, is it ain't getting better. Nobody's better. Chris covered that a lot of it on his show on Thursday, and he might hit upon it again. Something else, Chris, is, gosh, I knew it was going to be a show to get through. Kenneth jumping on. Did you guys like Kenneth? I want to get Kenneth back on. Maybe Kenneth and Chris need to do a show together. It's like, they can come up with their own title of their show. Chris has got the Chris Haig show, the DPB show, but I want to make sure that I get this on screen. I think this is up. Yes, here it is. The DPB show. I'm saving this one because I promised Mrs. Producer I would share this. And Mrs. Producer is, guys, obviously, the rest of the story. Behind every good man is, well, actually, ahead of every good man is Mrs. Producer, my wife. But Tanya came out and put this up this morning as her post. And I want to make sure that we cover this before the show's over. I think I can click on it and make it larger. Can I? Oh, there it is. Yeah. So you won as a precinct committee man for your precinct. so we're all aware, or maybe you're not. If you're not aware, this is it's worthy of repeating over and over and over and over and over again, folks. This is how the election. We heard a little bit about what's going on in Mississippi, okay, with voting, but this is the nuts and bolts of how elections kind of walk themselves out. There are over 10,800 precincts, and they're also townships, and they've got different names for things up in the Chicagoland area because everything seems to be a little bit different than the rest of the state. But yeah, they also have 2 election authorities, similar to McLean County, where I reside and Chris resides. We have 2 election authorities. That's another discussion. We'll talk about that because that's really interesting. There's not 102 election authorities in Illinois. There are 102 counties. There's actually 108 because there's 6 different counties that have multiple election authorities, meaning more than one. Is more than one multiple? Yeah, 2.
Yep.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. So this deals with precinct committeemen. There are roughly 10,800 precincts in Illinois. And with that, there are only less than, I think, 30% of those precincts filled. So Mrs. Producer brings up this question. So you won the precinct committeeman for your precinct. What does that mean? It might be more than you think. And of course, bless my little lovely wife's heart, here she breaks it down on the right. What is a precinct committeeman? Each county in the nation looks like a checkerboard. It is divided up into precincts. Precincts are very roughly about a 30-block area. A PC, meaning precinct committeeman, is, she did that up there at top. She put it in parentheses, so I don't need to repeat that that's precinct committeeman anymore. A PC is an appointed or elected position. There is both one Republican and one Democrat PC position for each precinct. They help inform their neighbors of upcoming elections, which we needed this time around because it was miserable, the turnout, but that's for another day. Action items, and they vote this April 15th, meaning the precinct committeemen have a vote this April 15th. If you were elected as a PC, you have a vote on April 15th. This vote is for your regional Central States Committee member. There are a total of 17 Central States Committee members in Illinois. These are 1 per congressional district, meaning in Illinois, we have 17 congressional districts. There is a Central States Committee member representing the PCs and the chairs, each county, and in the state of Illinois, there's 102 chairs. Therefore, each one of those 10,800 precinct committee are contained within one of those county parties, whether Democrat or Republican. So these are 1 per congressional district. PCs are the ones and the only ones who vote for our Illinois GOP chair. Now, how that happens is through their Central States Committee people. As a PC, your vote for your regional Central States Committee member is weighted depending on the number of votes you earned. How do you earn votes? You get out there and you turn out the vote in a primary, and that just happened. And depending on how many people voted for you as the precinct committeeman, that is going to be your weighted vote. So you got a little skin in the game. A lot of people tout that they want to get as many as they can because they have a weighted vote. As a PC, your vote for your regional Central States Committee member is weighted, which is what I just read. I'm sorry. Number 4. You can also be an appointed PC, meaning you don't get a vote, but you can be appointed, which we need more people to be appointed. If you're hearing my voice right now, we need precinct committeemen in the state of Illinois. Get in contact with either myself. Heck, Kenneth would be more than happy to help you. Chris will help you, direct you to me, but we need precinct committeemen. Around 50 to 60% of the precincts in Illinois have no PC. It's actually higher than that, but that's all right. Mrs. Producer and I decided nobody has an official number, which is really sad because we have something called technology. I'm sorry, that was kind of a slam. We have the ability to track this. I mean, they're either elected or they're appointed, and each county should be able to report how many vacancies they have. Okay, Call your local GPO office to learn if your precinct has a PC. And if they do, you can still be a block captain. There are ways to help out. We need all hands on deck. JB Pritzker is not going to go away without spending a lot of money and doing a lot of things that Mr. Clement might have said there as far as Chicago. I'm not saying JB is going to cheat, but, yeah, whatever. Too big to rig. Let's make it too big to rig. Sometimes that information is also noted on your county clerk's website. What is a block captain? Oh, I got ahead of Mrs. Producer. If your precinct already has PC, you can offer to be a block captain. This is mostly what it sounds like. You are a helper for your PC. If you have made it to the end of this post, this is definitely your sign to be a PC or block captain. Thank you, Mrs. Producer. Hold on. I think I hit too much. Okay.
No, you just kind of scroll a little.
Did it say, it just said show less. I thought it said see more. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. I need all the coaching I can get here. So, Mrs. Producer, unbelievable job. Talk with my friend Jim Rule today, who is running in the 17th Congressional Central States Committee seat that is open. Shout out. That's who I'm endorsing, Jim Rule. The counties are all those 14 counties in the 17th Congressional District. Like, subscribe, go out, be a friend of Jim Rule. But he's my pick. I think that some of you know that Tom DeVore is out there running in the 15th Congressional District as the Central States Committee, because it's the only way. If your manager has 10 losing seasons or 20 losing seasons in a row, you don't let them stay the manager. They no longer are with the team. So we need a lot of people involved in this process, as I said earlier. Chris,
well,
you got a whole show on Thursday, so I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad over talking Chris Haig today, because he's been going all by himself 2 Thursdays in a row. Now he's got a third Thursday. Go ahead, Chris. You were going to say.
Well, it goes.
You still can't drive 55.
I still can't drive 55, but besides that, the whole idea is to get out there. If you're not happy with the representation, if you're sitting around going, oh, there's another rhino, oh, there's the Republican establishment, get out there, be a precinct captain, go out or block captain or precinct committeeman or whatever.
Here is an example of the Democrats.
Sorry.
And get involved, and then you'll have a say. And what I've seen is in some of these states, it gets to the point where they're not as happy because they're starting to lose control over the party because they've not done a good job, and power is what they're after. And when you come in, and nobody wants to have the power taken away. So you need to realize that it's not going to be easy when you go and do this. But it's important, because then you can get your say and your politicians and your priorities through.
And Chris, as last Tuesday we talked about Chris's wife Sue being an election judge. There are so many opportunities. PC. Once you are an elected PC, though, you cannot be an election judge because, hold on. You can't be an election judge in your precinct or in your area because you're on the ballot. So there's some rules and regulations. I think it might even, because you're on the ballot, you can't be an election judge, but I'll have to get clarification on that. Mrs. Producer actually has the answer to that. I'm sorry, that was very rude of me, Chris. I put up the longest comment I think I've ever received on the DPB show, formerly known as the DPB show, now known as the Chris Haig show. I was pulled over at 117 while slowing down on my 95 Trump Daytona and back in 1998. This is my friend Chad Berg. Served our country well, flew Black Hawk helicopters, or did something. Nice. While riding through Arizona from California. Literally no traffic and beautiful roads. Dust, thankfully. I think he was a pilot of Black Hawk. Either that or he's on a Black Hawk. Heck, I gave him a promotion. Literally no traffic and beautiful roads, dusk. Thankfully, the officer was just checking, and I wasn't running drugs or doing something else illegal. But the officer
Crew chief on the Black Hawk. Okay, that's yeah.
So, but the officer was so nice. Once he learned I was on my way back from Fort Hood, was a crew chief on the Black Hawks. See, he's got it, Blackhawks. See, I gave him a promotion. I had him flying it. And his son was serving in the 10th Mountain. He said speed limits are prudent, but dependent on the officer, I'm assuming is what the rest of the comment says. I guess I have to expand it. I'm sure it says more down here. No, that's it. Just dependent on the must be officer. Chad, you cut out. Shout out to Chad. Thank you for serving our country. Obviously, as a crew member on a Black Hawk helicopter. I just talked to Chad the other day. But once again, we're going to jump off the air here shortly. And I wanted to get to this video because this says a lot. And I know I teased it and probably should got it out of order. But here is Chris Murphy. Dan Bongino covered this today on his show, but here it is. Listen for yourself. Yes, you're going to hear it out loud. Say it out loud. Let me make sure I start from the beginning.
Here is an example of the Democrats, again, saying the quiet part out loud unabashedly. Here's Senator Chris Murphy. Here he is saying the quiet part out loud, but who they really care about are the illegal immigrants. Not my words, his words. Check this out.
The negotiation didn't have a path to citizenship. It was entirely on their terms in order to get Ukraine funding, right?
Well, I mean, Chris, that's been a failed play for 20 years. So you are right that has been the Democratic strategy for 30 years, maybe. And it has failed to deliver for the people we care about most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country.
When they tell you.
Yes. When for the undocumented, yes. Did he call them undocumented Americans?
Undocumented Americans. They aren't undocumented Americans. They're not citizens.
Folks, these people are truly so lost in the land.
They're so Orwellian. They're Orwellian. They'll say one thing and it isn't what it means at all. So the American, that whole thing is definitely a Orwellian description.
It's sad, and that is a United States senator, mind you. We're trying to.
By the way, he has delusions of grandeur and is going to run for president.
Oh, he's going to join JB.
Yeah,
everybody's running.
I saw today JB's a whopping 5%, but that won't stop him.
Pushing hard, and as we just mentioned, if JB Pritzker cannot become the governor of Illinois on November 3rd or November 4th, according to the arguments in Watson versus the RNC, it might not be until, November 17th or something till we find out the winner of who won the governor's office of Illinois, because they do have 14 days after Election Day to count and adjudicate ballots, which is something that these lawsuits are about. We got to stop counting ballots days and weeks after an election. It's not count until you get the results you want. And this is all of this is nonsense. But we hope to beat JB Pritzker. That way we can guarantee that JB Pritzker will never be, this is their words about Donald Trump, so I'm going to throw it back at him. Donald Trump will never be the president of the United States. You probably all saw that montage of all of the different actors. I mean politicians, actors, politicians, whatever, that made that statement that Donald Trump would never be the president. Well, they were wrong, because not only was he the president once, he's been the president twice. And I believe he actually was the winner of the 2020 election, but so be it. I'm glad he wasn't. I don't think we would be where we are if we didn't understand what these people are capable of, which is open borders, which is overrunning and letting an invasion happen in our country, which is what that video was about. These people don't believe anything less than what they just told you. These folks, to them, are considered Americans. They're here, therefore they're now Americans. Let's make them citizens immediately. all in. Everybody's a citizen. Give them a ballot. Let them vote, for we can make sure that we win every election in every state. But
it's hard to justify how you have a country if you don't have borders.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that might be the title of Chris's show for Thursday. Chris,
I got a lot going on there. So
Chris, well, according to what you sent me over the weekend, man, you got enough content, but this really came up because I wanted to get back here today on air and let you know about my friend Darren Bailey and his beautiful wife Cindy. And I'm going to report more and more of that as we go through the next few months, because it is important that I hit upon all these topics. I'll let Chris do all the other stuff because he's got a lot of content that he can share with you. But one thing I know that I definitely do not want to miss, and that is praying us out today, because I think with everything going on, we still live in the greatest country ever to exist on this little planet we call Earth. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. America is an exceptional country. America, I believe, is the greatest country that God has put on this earth. And there's a reason that with that responsibility, there is great responsibility of making the world a better place, making America great again, but making the world great again. All right. With that, pop the hat off. There's the I didn't at least scorch my head with the burn pile. Oh, no, I did. All right. Dear Father, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the ability to come on and talk about these things that are so instrumental to our daily lives. Lord, we want to follow you, and that is more important than anything else. We want to be a people that follows the law, that follows order, that follows you in all we do and say. Lord, continue to guide us and lead us as we prepare our hearts for what you have in store for us. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
I just want to promote Thursday's show a little bit.
Thursday's show. Here we go.
Well,
Go ahead.
If we can get Kenneth on, I really want to talk about Second Amendment, because I think the attack on our Second Amendment rights is crucial in this election, given you talked about 2 million gun owners. If
2.5 million.
Okay, 2.5 million
registered FOID owners. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got all those people, and Pritzker's doing everything he can to make it as difficult as possible to own and use your gun. So if you want to go shooting and targets and hunting, whatever, he's going to have you register every single bullet. He's going to tax you on every single thing he can. And, you know, if I can get Kenneth to come on and talk about Second Amendment and a lot of these,
well, what are you offering?
Everything. What
are you offering? I'm his agent now. So since I brought him on the show, technically I'm his agent now. So it's kind of like Jerry Maguire.
Yeah. Show me the money. Okay.
Show me the money. Chris. Show me the money. What do you want?
Who doesn't want just the ability to show up on a show like the one that I'm doing on
Chris Hague Show? How can you not? How can you pass on being on the Chris Hague Show? Go out social media, the Chris Hague Show. Yes,
yeah, 100%. You know, so yeah, he could. Pretty much everything that Pritzker has done is going to the Supreme Court because it all violates our Second Amendment rights.
Yeah.
So
in those cases, in your right case, Chris, we have not had an opportunity. Thank you, Kim, for joining. Mark, always appreciate you. Yeah. Treasonous, of course. With treason, Mark, that doesn't exist.
Yeah, and that's you know, depending on who's you know, whether Kenneth could come on. If not, I've got a lot of other stuff. I think I might want to talk a little bit about markets and the impact of the war on the markets, and kind of sort of what's going on regarding the markets and the war, and what it can mean for the future of our country, and almost how we fund our military, because there's some interesting things going on, and Trump is recruiting some people to take advantage of some of these issues that are going on within the oil markets. So I think there's a lot going on that we can talk about in terms of those kind of things.
Because it's all interrelated. I know that
It
sometimes
is, 100%.
it makes your eyes kind of roll back in your head, but that's what happens when you're dealing with super smart people like Chris Haig and Kenneth Woodard, which hopefully Kenneth will be able to join you. I'll send him a message on my way. Mrs. Producer, bless her heart, we started two brush fires down at our little place, and she's asked me to go down and check on them, which means that it's just better that I do that. You
100% have to. We don't want to have a California situation where they do a controlled burn and then it ends up being
the difference of us in California, as Chris, is we actually do take care of the land, so we don't just let crap fall on the ground and then accumulate. It's very manicured. We have dug out trenches around our bonfires. Surprisingly, I'm living in a homeowners association where they lit a fire that's probably one of the largest brush fires I've ever seen. It's on a vacant lot that no one owns. I think the association owns it. They lit it. They let it burn down. And once it becomes an ash pile, I get it. The embers are there. You get concerned, especially if you get a northeaster or something blowing in.
Mm-hmm.
If the wind picks up, if in that case, then I have to get in there with my old rubber boots and my rake, and I have to rake it out and make sure the everything's cooled off. But Mrs. Producer also asked me to join her for dinner. So if I'm going to get to the venue and then all the way close to home by 6:10 is what she's telling me. She's giving me the option. I got an hour. So I've got a lot of work to do. All right. So Chris is going to be here on Thursday as your host for the DPB show or the Chris Haig show, whichever one you want to call it. Join him Thursday, 4 to 5 live. Chris has got a lot of content. Anything else, Chris?
Nope, that's it.
All right. I love you. Chris loves you, and Jesus loves you more. We will see you here on Thursday. Take care.